I feel like it's been a minute since I got on here. As people, we need therapy and therapy needs us. The first reason why I feel like you need therapy is because we all have an inner child that exists within us as adults. So who we were when we were children never actually dies out. And whether or not we realize it, that child needs to speak and it still needs to feel and express, because the things that happen in childhood versus adulthood sometimes can get you trapped into living in the middle of both those experiences. And the only way you can get through that, it seems, from what I'm understanding from therapy, is to acknowledge your inner child and let it speak and let it mourn, let it be sad, let it be happy. Just comfort them the way you needed to be comforted when you're young. And you most likely have a wounded inner child because a lot of us experience some form of trauma whenever we're growing up. Like, it's kind of inevitable, in my opinion. Trauma is not a specific experience, but it's more like your body's response to any experience. And I think as a kid, this world is just so vast and wide and filled with, unknowing parents, randomness and chaos, and, things can happen that everyone gets hurt somehow whenever they're young, whether it's by family members, friends, teachers, people they trusted, didn't trust, bullies. And today in my therapy session, my therapist acknowledged and spoke to my inner child, and she referred to her as little Asia, and like that immediately made me start crying because I felt like with previous therapists, they never wanted to acknowledge my inner child, and I felt like the root of my issues had to deal with what that inner child had felt growing up and suppressed growing up. This therapist now just taking the time to acknowledge it, thank my inner child for showing up today, getting me to feel my emotions and then also calm it down for the session to end. I feel like our society wants us to grow older and then cut off our need for connectedness, for love, for acceptance, approval, and validation. I feel like they want us to just grow up and be fine with everything that happened in our childhood. But when you're experiencing childhood, that's like your first time experiencing this life. The things that happen, you think it had to be that way. It's only when you get older where you realize there's a vast variety to life, and the way your childhood played out didn't have to be the only way it played out. And that's what's in front of me, and that's what's real and concrete, just to get older and find out that not all of it is real and concrete, and some of it you can change, some of it you can't change. I just think childhood in general is just a traumatic experience to go through. I think growing up is just a hard experience to go through. You have to go from having like no consciousness to self-autonomy to dealing with other people and relationship building within yourself and with others. It's not something you can get through smoothly with no scratch marks, no bruises, no burns. I don't think the goal should be to not be messed up from one's childhood at all. I think that's the human condition. We're born with emotions that are able to be super duper happy and super duper sad. I don't think that should be taken away from the human experience. I think we should have the knowledge and the tools in order to resolve those traumatic experiences that we do have, or figure out a way to grow up in the world without self-sabotaging and hurting ourselves and hurting others because of what happened in our childhood. That brings me to my second point, which is you should go to therapy because you deserve to not self-sabotage. I think so many people, especially in their 20s, self-sabotage their life, whether it's falling into drinking and drug and sex addiction problems, falling into the wrong relationships and friendships all the time, eating poorly, treating your body terribly. We do these things as a result of whatever negative experiences we had growing up, and they're affecting us now through different versions of self-sabotage. You don't have to live your whole life like that. Life is meant to be enjoyed, and you should be able to reach your goals and live an ideal lifestyle that you want, not just taking what you can get based off of your personhood, which is damaged and wounded from things that happened while growing up. It's a part of our culture, it's a part of our society to self-sabotage through drinking and drugs. We have bars for a reason. I enjoy drinking. I enjoy drugs. I'm just kidding. Therapists have so many different modalities with which they can try to resolve your issues. Not solve them completely, not make them go away, but help you better exist alongside the issues that you have. I don't think one therapist is gonna be enough in one's lifetime. I think one should experience a few different therapists, naturally, not forcing it so, but just let it naturally happen. Because each therapist has a different perspective or modality that they can offer you that they're good at and they specialize in. I think if you only get the perspective of one therapist, you might be limited in how much you can heal. And this is coming from me, who I've had over like 4 I have this one, I had that one, I had that one, I had that one. I've had like 4 therapists before. All 4 therapists that I've experienced, except for one of them, were generally good therapists. And I'm very happy with the therapist I have now. I feel like she's offering what I need at this point in my life. She's very intelligent. She does a lot more somatic therapy than I'm used to, but I like it. She's a lot more nuanced, a lot more detailed. She knows where to lead the conversation and what questions to ask to keep things organized and keep my emotions relatively calm. And then finally, I think everyone needs therapy because the best thing we can do for ourselves and for others is to understand ourselves. And therapy is a great way to start to understand yourself. Therapists tend to go over your value system with you, see what things you do and don't like about what's going on in your life. We're not here to just experience life as like a flash. We're here to get grounded in our personhood. We're here to get grounded in our bodies, in our spirituality, in our soul, and really experience life from a place of depth. I think we're just here to really understand our minds and how we function so that we can figure out the best way to live with our souls tied into these little flesh suits that we wear. And therapy definitely helps me understand myself. It helps me understand what my body does. Whenever you know what your body does, then sometimes you can know what your mind does. And either way, when you get to know one of them, you can get to know the other one. And then therapy is also a good way to figure out what you have in common with other people. Oftentimes you can request from your therapist and ask them, hey, can you please use examples of times when this was happening with another person, another client, or in your own life, and they can provide that. Some therapists do that naturally without you having to ask them, but others you can just ask and they will give you examples of other people who are going through the same struggles, same triumphs, their struggles, their triumphs, without it being too personal. Take your inner world and see someone else's inner world and know that you're not alone, and compare, and like not really compare them in a sense of like competition, like who's better, but compare them as in maybe this is the goal where I want to be and now I know I can be there because I learned about someone else's story. Even though we're all supposedly connected, we feel disconnected a lot because the society we live in doesn't really want us to connect in a genuine way. It's not normalized to talk about the type of things you would talk about in therapy with other people. Not saying it should be normalized, but we still need an outlet. We still need to know that we're not alone. And so therapy is a great way to no longer feel alone, especially if we can get recommended to group therapy, which is a little bit harder to find than just one-on-one therapy. Family and marriage therapy is kind of normalized, even with the older generation. Like, everyone knows about therapy for married couples, and I feel like that's the original school of thought that therapy seemed to like come up on. That's the original school of thought that people in our society associated therapy with, was either you're a crazy person or you're in a marriage and having therapists. And why did they think that only therapy was needed for romantic situations? I don't know. But therapy is going to help all your relationships, especially with maturity. Like, I'm already a mature person, so going to therapy, I already have a lot of maturity, but I can see how the questions that the therapist asks and the things that you share with your therapist can lead to a more mature outlook on life, on yourself, and on others, because you're no longer just seeing things from your point of view and that's it. You're getting your mind expanded and you're practicing getting your mind expanded. Therapy is a practice. It's not just one and done. That therapist can walk you through different life events and just the day-to-day thoughts and feelings you have. Anyways, everyone, just go to therapy. It's good for you. It can hurt and can be painful. It can open up old wounds, but if it's the correct practitioner, if it's a smart practitioner, if it's an appropriate practitioner, they're doing it in an appropriate way that will make your life better in the long run. If I didn't have it, I don't know where I'd be, just because self-therapizing can only go so far. They don't have the insight on the mind and the body and systems and patterns the way that the therapists do, that they've been trained for. So us as humans, we're never meant to handle everything alone, including our own feelings and thoughts. Anyways, I hope that you really enjoyed this video. I really hope this encourages you to seek out therapy. Please let me know if you've gone to therapy before and what your thoughts are on it, if you feel like it helped you, if it didn't help you, and in general, do you think everyone should try therapy in their life? All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.